Hey guys, welcome back to block number 13. Today we're going to do the puff stitch and I'm so excited because it's so beautiful. I have here 30 stitches to start with my chain, and for the first 3 rows we're actually going to bounce back to the seed stitch. So we're going to have some cool texture in between the puff stitches to help separate those. So to get started with that, insert into the second stitch and do a single crochet, and then chain 1 and skip a space below. Single crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip a space below, and single crochet into the next stitch. You're going to continue this pattern all the way down, so you should have single crochets with a space in between all the way to the end, and we're going to finish off with a single crochet. I will see you there. Alright, for row 2, again it's the same as the seed stitch. We're going to chain 1, crochet into the first stitch, and crochet into that first space. Just go all the way around. Okay, so from here pick up the seed stitch pattern. Chain 1, skip the stitch below, and stitch into the space. Chain 1, skip the stitch below, and stitch into the space. I will see you guys on row 3. We'll finish up with the last seed stitch and then we'll get started on the puff stitch. At the very end here you should have 2 single crochets, 1 in the space and 1 in your last stitch of the row. Okay, row 3, last row of the seed stitch before we start with that puff stitch. Chain 1, single crochet in the first space, chain, skip a stitch, and single crochet all the way through the chain space below. Chain, skip a stitch, single crochet into the chain space below. Keep that up all the way to the end. You will finish with a single crochet. Oh my. Alright guys, row 4, we are into the meat and potatoes. So to get started with the puff stitch, we're first just going to chain 2 and do a quick double crochet here in this first stitch just to help border these off. We're going to be doing the puff stitches in our chain spaces between our seed stitch. So to get started, it's similar to the cluster stitch that we did last block. You're going to yarn over, push through this space, hook it, and instead of just anchoring down here, you're going to pull all the way up to the height that you want. Yarn over again, pull all the way up, and we're going to go one more time. These are going to be nice and thick. Pull all the way up. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on this hook that we need to pull through. So last time with the cluster stitch, we were kind of separating these and making all of them smaller. This time we're just pulling through everything. So it's really important that you twist your hook so that you don't get stuck. Pull through everything and do just a quick chain there to seal it off. Okay, skip this stitch below and go into that space. So same thing. Pull all the way up, yarn over, pull all the way up, yarn over, pull all the way up. Okay, and a chain. Okay, one more time. So we've yarned over, we're in these spaces for this block. Yarn over, pull all the way up, yarn over, pull all the way up, yarn over, pull all the way up. Okay. And again, twist, pull it through, slip stitch to close. So now we're seeing this really cool puffy texture. Now in comparison, the cluster stitch, just to show you, we pulled up, and pulled through, pulled up and pulled through, and then we joined all of them. So the cluster stitch just has a bit more of an interlocking texture, whereas the puff stitch is just a bit more of a free-formed, okay? But you're going to continue with the puff stitch all the way across in the gaps that you have, and end, here's going to be your last puff stitch, end with a double crochet in your last stitch to border it off. Alright, so I finished that row of puff stitches with a double crochet, and before you alternate your seed stitches again, I just want to show you placement. So you chain one, skip that first and insert into the second stitch here, just a single crochet, chain one and skip a space. In this case, you're skipping the entire puff stitch, and you're now going to go around this chain space between. So single crochet, chain one, skip the puff stitch, go around, single crochet, chain one, and you will continue that all the way down. I apologize, we're having some housework done. But from there, you'll alternate. This will be row one, you'll do row 2, 3 of your seed stitch, and then your puff stitch in between. So just continue this placement in this pattern until you have a completed block, and I will see you guys when my block is done. Alright, so I wrapped up my block. Again, I'm sorry for any background noise today. We're doing our windows in the house. But I ended up having the 3 rows of seed stitch plus a puff stitch 1, 2, 3, 4 times, plus one more set of seed stitches. Just remember to do your placement for the first row of seed stitches after a puff around that space, and then continue with your typical seed stitch. And then your puff stitches should always insert into a chain space as well. That way everything's kind of sunken in and interlocking a bit, and it just really adds to the that texture. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. I think it's a really beautiful pattern. You can use it a lot of different ways, and I will see you back next week.